to get hands-on then, Parliament is a constitution of Kenyans who represent other Kenyans, because we cannot all fit into a 416 chamber because we are 50 million Kenyans. That's why we have elected them to exercise power on our behalf. Is it right for you, Dr. Kanga, and the long list of religious leaders in the country then to turn the heat on your congregants to elect leaders who are cautious and are visionary about this country? And I'm looking at the language here, the tone used at the moment, and the concerns the bishops have, and you, the religious leaders from the Muslim community, about the path to anarchy that we are likely to take in the event the leaders continue to hold on to the rose-tinted glasses that they are wearing at the moment. How would you address that problem?
Yeah, I think one thing we must appreciate is that all of us are Kenyans. We have unfortunate culture that has actually become part of us. That we have one man, for example, a human being, who is a religious person, but is also politically engaged. So when he moves out of the place of worship, he becomes the ordinary Kenyan, and he does what other Kenyans do. And sometimes it becomes very, very difficult, really, for the message to sink into the hearts and the minds of the people that we talk to. But I want to assure you, Kenyans, the religious sector, have done a lot. They have been part of this journey since when the campaign of the multi-party democracy began in this country. The religious sector are very, very active members of that movement, including provision of civic education and other responsibilities. So apart from that religious messaging that we give, we also call upon our congregants to be Kenyans, people who are responsible and are able to have good leaders in their places. A part of the leadership that we have, they are members of our congregations. They are not coming from heaven or hell. No, they are part of us. So even when we talk about these leaders, they belong. At one time, they belong. Either they are Muslims, they are Defenders, they are whatever. They belong to all these kinds of congregations. We are actually talking to our own members when we talk about the leadership of this country. So I think Kenyans, we are just coming up as people of bad manners.
Mm-hmm. Wambui, I know you have something to add on this, but even as you do, I want to understand from you what opportunities we must not miss for the neutral voices in what is happening in the country to be influential, because we need those neutral voices, voices that are not party to any interest and are just pushing genuinely what is the best for the country. The church, the religious leaders, independent institutions such as yourself are needed at a time like this in the country. But then again, how do we make their voice influential? Because you have had the challenges that have been raised by Dr. Kanga and Sheikh, the political interests that are there. Sometimes they are profiled, they are told, you seem like you are already associating with one side of this particular divide. So how do we deal with those to reach a point where what the neutral voices say is actually heard and implemented for us to get a solution?
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. But just to weigh in into the conversation of Dr. Kanga and Sheikh Hassan, you know, it's good that Dr. Kanga has classified our leaders into two, the dominators and the manipulators. And it's important that also Sheikh Hassan has pointed out that some politicians are not actually doing this for Wanjiku. They are not fighting for a worthy cause, the worthy cause that some people view it as, but they are also fighting for themselves. But remember that a people must be led. You cannot have people who are demonstrating and they have no leadership, guiding them. Or Kenyans cannot just be, people who have no leaders to lead them. And so if we want to see genuine demonstrations, if we want to see genuine people fighting for certain issues, maybe probably the church or, the Muslim community can come together and lead this cause, because it is indeed a worthy cause. When Kenyans are hungry, when there are no rains for people to farm, where cattle can feed on, that is a worthy cause to fight for, you know.
But they say that is it a matter of understanding, or otherwise they do convey the message, but otherwise that isn't implemented. And you have mentioned hunger, famine, unemployment, and what the Archdiocese of Nairobi on Sunday said is inappropriate. That is the nomination of the 50 chief administrative secretaries. Where does the line lie here?
You know, I believe that the current administration has a lot of respect for religious leaders. I have seen them in State House many, many times. I believe that those conversations held there should be or have been for, you know, to fight for the people that the religious leaders lead. Because religious leaders are, apart from politicians, they also enjoy fanatical following, you know. People believe in God, and they also believe in God because they have been taught about God by the religious leaders. So religious leaders play a big role in the leadership of this country. And I do not want to believe that the current administration has no ear for the religious leaders. In fact, the spouses of the president and the deputy presidents are themselves religious leaders. So religious leaders definitely have a big voice, and Dr. Kanga is really laughing. They have a big voice. They have a big voice in this administration, and they should take advantage of it, fight for the people, fight for Wanjiku, because on Sundays, our churches are full. On Fridays, the mosques are full. People are crying to God. People are listening to the religious leaders. And these religious leaders can have a say in what the government is doing or is not doing. I believe the religious leaders should now step in and even take these petitions to State House so that they can also fight for the people. Because when the people that Moses was leading were hungry, Moses is the one who went to cry to God and to tell God that my people are hungry, can you do something for them? But apart from also crying to God, he also led the people to where they could have gotten their bread. So it is important that the religious leaders come together and fight for Wanjiku. If we cannot trust the politicians, at least we can trust the religious leaders.
Thank you.
And it's important that they take a role in this. About the neutral voices, it's important to have a neutral voice. It's important to be, you know, the person who mediates differences. But this mediation must be mediation that is of people who are respected, you know, people who are both respected by the Wanjiku and by the leadership. Who are these people? These are the religious leaders, the ones who have not entangled themselves in the political issues that we have seen before. NCIC was accused of being one-sided because, unfortunately, when you arrest a politician from one side of the divide, you are you know, said to be supporting the other political divide. When a religious leader stands up and says that these demonstrations are not helpful to Kenyans, then those who are demonstrating will say, oh, you belong to the other side. We must also be objective in looking at the different roles played by independent offices, played by religious leaders, and played also by, you know, independent Wanjiku voices.
Thank you.
It's important to give them the voice and the opportunity to also air their views.
Dr. Kanga, I just want to give you a chance to respond to what she has said. Your body language.
I agree. I agree with what she's saying, but I'm so careful and ask my fellow Kenyans so that we must have boundaries clearly set, so that we don't come up to a particular area where we think or we tend to behave like spirituality will be used as a reason for irresponsible behavior. Whereas we are all Christians, we belong, we need to set standards in every area. Yes, I am a religious leader, but there are things that must be done right. And also, let's not specifically point some people to be more spiritual than others. To me, all those people are the same. As far as I'm concerned, both politicians are the same. They belong to the same. When it comes to their level of spirituality, it's the same. We take care of them as members. If you go to the Prime Minister, you know very well that the Prime Minister, even in his own farm, where he comes from, in his homeland, his father put up an Anglican church there. The other team, they are good Christians. But now let's put that aside, because we know man must be three-sided. Man must be spiritual mature, mental mature, and physical mature, and all-round man. So they are great people. But now, as far as what we have in Kenya right now, there is a big problem. The danger has nothing to do with spirituality, but resources. We are fighting for minimal resources that we have. And that's why we are manipulating people so that this can take this one. There is an issue of the winner take it all, where we came up sometimes back, a religious that we said that we will not move Kenya ahead from 2007 up to now. The issue is about resources. And the issue is about the structure of governance that we agreed upon. It is a high time we agree that whereas we are spiritual, we are mental, and we are physical mature, how do we take care of all this based on the resources and where we are in the part of the world? So the issue of the winner take it all is a big challenge. If you see the tricks that are being played by politicians right now, the tricks and looking smart issue, when this one do this, you had a conversation yesterday with our good brothers in Kenya.
Yeah.
And that conversation, if you looked at them, everybody is trying to look smarter than the other. And the other will speak so that he makes sure the other one is not hard, and the other one is not hard, the other one is pushed this side so that I can get my way. What's the issue? The winner take it all. Even the trick right now is it possible if we agree for dialogue, I might not get what I want?
Okay.
And is it possible if I don't agree, I'll continue? People want to be appointed. Why would you appoint 50 people in such a country, in such a situation, in such a boat that is sinking, when you have not enough resources? Is it because really you want them? Is it because you want them to feel good? How do you deal with this? Let's come down and look at our governance structures, whether this is what's going to bring peace at home. And let's begin now. Let's not just brush off this one and say, okay, let's not use the constitution. We say, we have a constitution and this is what we are following, or me, what I know is that I need to go on the roads, on the streets, and get what I want to know. Let's come back together, have dialogue, agree on the way forward from today, so that we have a better 2027.
All right, but then, Sheikh, how do we do this? How do we deal with this now that the Kenya Kwanza government has its own stand?
Yeah.
The Azimio La Umoja One Kenya Alliance has its own stand that actually includes escalating the protests from not just Monday, but Thursdays, twice in 1 week. And the period is not even specified, so we do not know how long this is going to take. How do we come out of this? How do we survive?
Yeah, honestly, we have a challenge. And because not even just 2 days, and there was also a warning that that will actually escalate to daily after the 2 days per week. So it's going also to be daily in the near future. Mm-hmm. And I want to call upon Kenyans just really to look at themselves and ask themselves whether whether anything can come out of this kind of a process. It is very, very critical as a country that we dialogue. But depending on what we dialogue on, are these demonstrations really about Wanjiku? Is it about the empty sufuria? Or it's about other things which are now being put at the secondary level? What is the primary objective of these demonstrations? Because we all know, we have been in this country, and we know when the conversation began. What were the messages that were being sent? What are the demands that were being put forward? What has changed? Why is it now we have started talking about Unga, we have started talking about, because it is catchy to Wanjiku. It immobilizes the innocent Wanjiku to come out because they believe this is our cause. And on the other side, the government is also not making it better because they are not really giving out public statements on exactly what are the steps they are taking to improve on the situation. Instead, they are busy responding to the other coalition, which to the Kenyans is not important. Kenyans want to know what is their president telling them about the hardship they are facing. What is their ministers or whatever in government telling them about the challenges they are facing? I went to the northern Kenya myself. I went to Dadaab some few weeks ago, and you can't imagine, you know, what is really happening. I found a family that moved from Wajir with some few goats. By the time they arrived to Dadaab, because there was sometimes when they rained this side of the country, then they thought they are going to find the grass there. By the time they arrived there, it is already dry. So what happened? They lost all the animals they have. Now they can't go back to where they came from, and they can't live here. Now they are trying even to get into the refugee camp so that they can actually get how they can survive. Is this country, is the leadership of this country understanding the hardships Kenyans are going through? Or we are just seeing the nice things? I want to urge the leadership, please respond to the needs of the Kenyan people. Forget about what the political leaders say, you know, so that we don't waste a lot of time responding to what this other coalition have said the other day, whatever, and then we get lost in between. And finally, dialogue is only possible when people are actually raising things that are easily, that you can actually be able to address. There are things that are extremely difficult to address. There are issues that require issue of the constitution, issues to be dealt with along those lines. There are things that have been overtaken by events. Again, I want to repeat this. When we talk about the opening of the service, 7 months, we are not being told what will be the outcome of the opening of the service. Suppose whatever decision that, I don't know who is going to happen, but is it, what do we want to achieve? Okay. Because in the faith that I subscribe to, anything that you do is followed, is actually, you have to have an intention. What do you want to achieve by doing this? So to us, we need to ask ourselves, what are the intentions? You know, every action that has any issue that is being raised by the political class, what is the outcome of that particular thing that they are raising? So that we are not just talking. Then we can single out and see what requires dialogue. In my view, finally, what requires dialogue in this country is how do we bring the cost of living down? Anyone with an idea of that, I think it is something that can be discussed. Okay. How do we ensure that our education system is in a crisis? We are living a lie as a country. We have the junior secondary school students today not learning anything in a school. One teacher, 2 books in a whole school. So what do we expect out of this? We are going to lose a generation. We are now quiet. We have forgotten about this. And many things that are actually there, which now we are being made to believe that this country we are fighting, we want to get this, we want to get that. It's a lie. Let us talk to the issues that are affecting the ordinary mwananchi of this country. Okay.
Well, Wamboi, coming to you. Looking at the language of the political leadership in the country, the religious leaders have called them out, saying that, look, you, the political class, if you don't desist from the gas political pedal, then we are likely to head the path of anarchy. I mean, how are you monitoring the language when you have leaders who say economic terrorists, urban bandits, and then on the other end, the opposition is calling for secession, saying, Senator Ledama Olekina saying that what's wrong if we secede and divide this country into 2? I mean, what's your monitoring process of the language by the political leadership that intends to further divide this country?
Yeah, just before the election, we had, you know, politicians, presidential candidates come to our peace conference and sign peace charters. They committed to maintain peace, to desist from hate speech during, before, and even after general election. Apart from that, we also had various political groups, you know, political leaders, Boda Association, women leaders, grassroots mobilizers. Also, we engaged them in these conversations. And what we are doing as NCIC is to now revive these conversations, because NCIC wants to deal, or particularly is interested in dealing with the soft power of the human, you know, human being. And unfortunately, politicians are the people who lead the citizens into violent acts. These sort of pronouncements are not healthy for Kenyans. Of course, Kenya is one country. It must remain as one country. The focus should be, how do we live cohesively as one people in this one country? We cannot start having conversations of dividing the country. And
but Wambui, this is not the first time that such language is used by the political class.
Yes.
You even had arrests of politicians, but these cases have not been proven in a court of law, no successful conviction.
Yes.
And if it's just a matter of heeding your call, then you also had amplified the same in the past. Again, it's recurring. I mean, what seems to be wrong? Is your language not that persuasive enough to them, or it's a case of inaction and the inability to have these successful convictions in courts of law that's driving the appetite of the political class?
You know, this conversation or the NCIC work it cannot be achieved by NCIC alone. We rely on the goodwill of very many government institutions. The first one being the DCI, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. The second one being the Office of the DPP. The third one being the judiciary. And if these 4 organs, that is DCI, NCIC, DPP, and judiciary, in that order, do not work in a cohesive way to achieve what we are looking for, we cannot be able to achieve it. We have Section 13 and Section 65 of the NCI Act that expressly prohibits hate speech. And in fact, these politicians should, most of them, be in jail for these crimes. We also have the Penal Code that, you know, makes it criminal for someone to incite people to violence. And they are liable to 7 years in prison. But what do we see? When NCIC has done its role of, you know, whistleblowing, of calling the DCI to come and do investigations, of forwarding the files to DPP, and DPP finally sometimes forwarding it to judiciary, we never see anything going forward. Why? Because in this country, justice is always delayed. And when justice is delayed, justice is denied to Kenyans. We have done our best to ensure that politicians are taken to court. We have very many files in court, but these processes never seem to move forward. NCIC is not a prosecuting body.
Is it what you present before the courts of law, because courts of law are courts of evidence and thresholds,
it is not
or it's about putting up your cases so tight that it can be proven beyond reasonable doubt? Because no successful conviction. So since you were formed and the commission came into office in the aftermath of the post-election violence in 2007-8.
We have had some successful convictions of several people, especially social media people. The only problem is that these are ordinary Wanjiko, and I'm sorry to say that the politicians who are the worst propagators of violence have not been successfully convicted. In fact, most of them have challenged the laws that are used to take them to court because they can afford serious lawyers who can, you know, use every means to, you know, run away from justice. What I'm saying is that this is a collective effort. Okay. All the arms of, all the departments that are involved needs to work together for the success of you know, eliminating hate speech and incitement to violence in the country. Thank you. NCIC does its role of, you know, ensuring that people are cohesive, calling for dialogue, for example, meeting the grassroots people. We are having a lot of activities, meeting the people, talking to them, you know, asking them to engage in peaceful protest. But at the same time, if the DCI does not assist us with proper investigations, if the DPP does not recommend for the prosecution of certain individuals, if the judiciary decides to take our cases as slow as they wish, we can never succeed in that.
Well, we appreciate the work that NCIC does. It's really unfortunate, and you even admitted that the influence seems to be felt just among the common mwananchi. Where it's needed most, where that influence is needed most, is around the people we are talking about today, the politicians, the who is who in the society. They're the ones you say propagate a lot of hate speech. That is where we want NCIC to crack the whip and for its influence to be felt. Because we see them on public domain making those sentiments. You want to tell me that's not enough evidence? But
you know, like for example, politicians come to cities, to stations, media stations, and incite people to violence, propagate hate speech. But when we come to media stations, for them to go and testify in court, they decline. But so it is also a collective effort of media stations, Wanjiko's also assisting us in this role. Because if, for example, I take a clip on YouTube that has been posted by Citizen TV and I take it to court, Citizen TV must produce a witness for that. That is the threshold that the court accepts.
All right.
But if you refuse to go and testify,
I don't know about other media stations, but
yes.
In our house policy, we have a way of how we deal with hate speech. I don't think, and I don't remember an incident where we have allowed and given platform and airtime.
I will not mention the media stations, but in several occasions, NCIC has written to media stations to go and be witnesses in certain cases, and they have declined.
Okay, but
or refused to. But I'm not saying it's Citizen TV, but they are media stations.
That was just a provision of context. We understand you, Wamboi.
Yes.
And we aspire that here at Royal Media Services, not only Citizen Television, we don't give oxygen of publicity to people who intend to divide the country.
And
we bear that responsibility
as well.
That. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Dr. Kanga, do you think perhaps we wait until it's too late for us to start fixing the problems because I don't know how fruitful trying to fix the problem of the high cost of living is going to be now, trying to fix the problem of unemployment now, the reforms that are being called for in the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission now, like it's just urgent, it has to be done today. If that is not done, then protests are not going to cease. It's sort of like we have to fix it now. How practical is that?
I think, as I said, a number of things we are doing needs a mindset change. We need to redirect our mindset. Let me begin from what he has just said, where we started. We said election was done. Election was done in an environment that was peaceful, and you are all moving forward. After the election, there is one person who got 7 million. Around 7 million. Another one got around approximately 7 million. 8 million did not vote. That means even those people among the two groups who think they are right, they might not be right. You might be an opposition, but opposition of the minority. You might be the president, but the president of the minority. So what you need, despite that legally you won the election, legally you do not win the election. But the truth is, you need what we call social support. Where we are struggling here, it is the social support. You need the support of 7 + 8 who did not vote to be behind you in order to run a country. You need the 7 + 8 who did not vote and who voted for the other person to be with you in order for you to succeed. If you don't get this, you will not get this support by mere being just thumping, or just by saying I'm legal right. Legal right and just thumping will not be able to get us where we want. Because remember, you have 7 + 8 who did not vote for you. And remember, you have 7 who voted the other one. And then you can say, constitutionally you are. And then the other one say, okay, and I am the president of the people. Yes, you are. Who told you are the president of the 7 million who voted for the president? Okay, you are the president. Who told you have the support of the 8 + 7 who do not vote? So with that in mind, all of us need to understand that with that, you need to be humble enough and say, yes, I have an opportunity to be an opposition leader right now. And so what I need to do, I need the support of all Kenyans to be able to move forward. And so how am I going to get it? Through a way of peace. Do we need to open the server? Yes and no. Why? Again, I agree with him. We open after we know as a country. Why do we want to open it? So that we may know this. After we know, will that bring peace? Or will it be an access of war?
So it's subject to an evaluation?
We need to evaluate ourselves as Kenyans. Yes. Of course, everybody's convicted or convinced that they won. Let's open the server. and agree, yes, it's open, what will be the outcome of that? Will that be an access of war, or will that an access of peace? If we realize it's not an access of peace, then we come around the table and agree, for now, where we are, you need the support of 7 + 8 million, both sides. So as Kenya, let's agree that for the time being here, and then we embark on the situation of correction of our laws or our culture, because it's a matter of culture, mindset, and the cultural perspective that we are fighting with. So, question, do we need to solve it right now? We don't need to solve it right now, but we need to go progressively. So we begin from where we are. For me to understand that for sure, I'm not carrying all Kenyans. I need their support, whether I'm in the office or I'm out of the office. And then I ask myself, when there is this chaotic situation, when there is maandamano, and I'm in Serena taking lunch, and I'm also in the State House working, is that what I was voted for? Is that are those the people I want to lead? If no, have peace. And then let's come on the table and agree on the way forward as quick as possible. If possible, we'll ask the president in the next 2 days, he would have made a decision what's the way forward, because he must just stand up and show leadership. Raila should stand up and show leadership. But you cannot show leadership by chest thumping your team, sending your group to go and chest thump, and stand here and tell us that in the next 1 week will be continuous, every day.
All right. All right. So we just want to sample some of the feedback that we have received from you, our viewer. We asked you to be a part of this, just to share with us your thoughts and insights on the conversation we are having on Daybreak this morning.
At Kulabusia says, I agree we need to dialogue because it appears the president is pursuing the constitutional amendments through Article 257, while Raila Amolo Odinga is pushing constitutional amendments through Article 256. My worries is the silence by the Pentecostal churches.
And of course, Kinywa Muchoki, you say dialogue between Ruto and Raila will not solve the high cost of living caused by abnormal rise in fuel prices, the weakening shilling, increased taxes, prolonged drought, and the repayment of foreign loans.
And we have this from Engineer Lazaro. Dr. Kanga, he says religious leaders are supposed to be neutral. You can't facilitate peaceful dialogue among the warring parties when you are already taken partisan stand. That's what he means. It seems churches nowadays are deep in politics.
And we have Chalo Wood Rosie. You say demonstrations will never change economic situation at the moment. The government, through the executive, should stop chest thumping and call the opposition for a dialogue on how to revive the economy.
And you have this from Magua's 3. It's right for every person, he says, to picket as provided under Article 37 of the Constitution. But we saw on Monday, what we saw on Monday, he says, is that the police acted unprofessionally and biased. They are actually the ones who caused violence and provoked the peaceful maandamano.
We have Okello Mwalimu. We are living at a time when it's so difficult to believe words of clerics, especially on political matters. Most of them have taken non-political stands and have therefore lost moral authority to chaperone the flock. However, current political stalemate must be fixed.
And this from J.M. Musoma, truth be told, Kenyans have lost trust with some religious leaders. Not all spiritual leaders are objective. We have seen both Christian and Muslim leaders endorsing presidential candidates during the campaigns. Others are now rewarded with government jobs.
We have MC_rumors. I support the calls for dialogue, but I hope that it will not result in another fraudulent handshake. Ruto and Raila joining hands will be dangerous for Wanjiku. Raila couldn't criticize anything when he was with Uhuru. Ruto should lower the cost of living.
Remy Butia says we need to get out of this cycle of post-election demos and the ruinous impact on the economic growth. We are the only country that goes for elections and ends up with an economic slump. Our diversity shouldn't kill our nation.
Yeah.
And we have Honorable Lillian Sioi. We should all be alive to the fact that violent demonstrations, destruction of properties, and disruption of businesses will only worsen the economic state of our nation. Azimio should embrace a properly structured dialogue that will embrace, that will bring back normalcy?
Okay, and those are some of the feedback on Twitter. The hashtag is Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya, at Ayub Abdikadir, and at Safin_Achieng. We have 3 minutes and the last round of response, starting with you, Sheikh Hassan Olenado, and we are on the eve of Ramadan. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. First is actually to wish the Muslims locally and globally Ramadan Mubarak. Most likely it has been announced that tomorrow will begin Ramadan. The local sighting of the moon will be trying to sight today to see whether it will be seen, so that at least we can all of us begin the fast. I want to urge all Muslims to take this opportunity to pray for our country, for a peaceful resolution of the current political quagmire that we are in, and hope they will continue supporting one another and also the rest of the Kenyans, because Ramadan is the month of sharing. It's not a month of just eating when you get, but to share, to ensure that your neighbors are also getting something to eat. And on this matter that we have been discussing since morning, I hope that our country, our leadership, should actually heed to many advices they have received. Kenyans have spoken, and every Kenyan has spoken on the need of dialogue at the leadership level. We are also calling upon the leadership to sober up and actually try to step down in terms of, so they reduce the kind of the animosity they are expressing, the political rhetorics, the names they call one another, so that respect should actually start at the top leadership, so that Kenyans can start appreciating our democratic principles. And finally, as a country, we must be a country that goes to elections, finalizes the process of elections, have the new leadership, and proceed to work as a nation. We should not be a country that is all-round political. We are always moving from this term to the another one. Because what we are seeing now, unfortunately, may not stop after 2027. And that drops the country in terms of the space in which those who have been elected could be serving their people. Instead, they are now being mobilized politically. They will not be able to do the work that they were elected to do. I want us to, as a country, to be a country that can only vote within the period stipulated in the Constitution and go back to our work so that the country can progress. Thank you.
Wambui, what's your call to action?
Yeah, thank you very much. Just to, appeal to the Kenyans, especially to the young people, not to be used to propagate violence, to propagate hate speech, and to bring this country to anarchy. We owe this country a responsibility. We need to demonstrate, but demonstrate peacefully. Let us live as one people, cohesively, and in unity, and loving our brothers and sisters who are our neighbors. The second thing is to call our leaders. Leadership is very important, be it leadership in the opposition or leadership in government. Leadership in parliament as well as leadership in county governments. As you lead the people that you lead, remember in mind that these are Kenyans who must live in Kenya as a whole. Okay. We cannot be dividing the country into segments and calling other people to secede. That is not something that should be acceptable. At the same time, I want to wish our Muslim brothers and sisters a happy and a peaceful month of Ramadan. We, the Catholics, are already in our Lent period, and we are almost going to Easter. As the Muslims, brothers and sisters, go into Ramadan, please pray for the country as you fast, that we may be able to achieve peace in the coming days, and that we may have, the leaders agree on certain issues. We wish you all the best, and for the Catholics, also all the best as you approach Easter.
Thank you. Dr. Kanga.
Again, I want to repeat what my sister said here, that we wish greetings. We greet and wish blessings for our brothers, Muslim brothers, for Ramadan. but again stated that we as religious leaders in this country, we stand with our fellow Kenyans, we stand with Kenyans and all those leaders. However much, whatever we want to say, they are our brothers and sisters. And then from now onwards, let's use the prevailing challenges for this year, 2022, to be a stepping stone towards a better destiny for this nation. That after these challenges, we'll never look back again and say, we repeat what has happened from today. And then let's look at this document we call Constitution and see where we are so that we don't go on running on the spot, but we move forward. So this document needs to be improved so that we go towards what we call not a winner take it all, but the winner and the others are comfortable. May God bless Kenyans today.
Thank you. Your time is all appreciated. Sheikh Hassan Olenado is the national chairperson, the Supreme Council of Kenya Muslims, SUPKEM. Thank you, Sheikh, for your time.
Thank you.
And Ramadan Mubarak to you and all Muslims across the world. We as well had Wamboi Nyoto, who is the vice chairperson, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, and Dr. Alphonse Kanga, regional chair, NCCK.
Indeed, and that has been quite an insightful conversation, and we hope that you have gotten something that will guide how you're going to go about helping all of us get a solution to what is bedeviling our country going forward. But right here on Citizen TV, we will continue to bring you up to speed with the developments on this particular issue. And of course, we appreciate your time and company on the broadcast this morning. My name is Safin Acheng Oma. Have a lovely day ahead.
And you see, up next is Willis, and we'll be talking about matters gun handling and safety. This is very interesting. But it's a good weekend because if United were to lose, then that would be dangerous and catastrophic for Willis to be allowed here. But going forward, he'll be talking to Safety Officer Instructor Master Sami Onyango on gun safety and professional firearms dealer and instructor here. Willis will be steering that conversation, and he had a prayer for us on Monday as Arsenal fans that he feels that the league will go Arsenal's way. Amen to that. Many thanks for waking up with us, and thank you to you too as well. Good morning.